Bonjour mon petit chifle, Amber here. That was very loud. And just thought I'm going through my list of videos that I once wrote down that I need to film and then just kept putting off filming. We know that I love me a good series. I love getting overly invested in characters and seeing their growth and arcs and these wild adventures that they go on. For someone who's not really a standalone reader, I've started many a series and left them unfinished. So today I just kind of wanted to sit down and go through a list of series that I need to finish reading, kind of also sort of holding myself accountable. If I put it out in the universe and tell you all that I need to finish these series, then I have to make a point to finish reading them at some point in the near future and stop adding other unrelated books to my TBR. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. The books on this list, one, there's no sort of order really, but the books on this list are all, or the series on this list are all completed series. They're not like ongoing series, so there won't be any like Witchlands, because obviously I need to finish it because the series itself isn't finished, you know. Once again, already completed. I'm just playing catch up. To be fair, several of these, the final book recently came out, so it's not completely my fault. First and foremost, we have one of my most recent loves and obsessions, and it's the Shadow of the Fox series. I'm gonna put the cover of the first one here because I didn't feel like going to dig it out. A lot of my books are in storage, I mentioned this before, or in various places around the apartment. But so it's the Shadow of the Fox, Soul of the Sword, and the final book in this series is Night of the Dragon. I don't think I'm going to talk too much about what each series is about because we'll be here forever, but this series follows Yumiko, who is, sorry, but Siri just turned itself on for some reason. Follows Yumiko, who is half kitsune, half human. Long story short, she has to team up with Tatsumi, who is this shadow warrior assassin, and he is trying to find the final piece of the dragon scroll, which has the ability to grant someone this like a wish and can bring about destruction of the world. He doesn't know that she has the piece that he's looking for, yada yada yada. I started reading the first book about a year, maybe around this time last year, and initially I had trouble getting into it, so I put it down with the intent to pick it back up. I didn't want to force myself to read it and diminish my reading experience. I'm so glad I did that. I keep saying that because I have fallen in love with this series. I read Soul of the Sword in May, one of my Asian readathon reads. This series just keeps getting better and I'm so stressed out. Y'all had one job, and so the final book just came out, I think also in May perhaps, and it's Night of the Dragon. Like I said, significantly smaller than the first two, but I am 100% sure that it packs a lot of emotional turmoil into this very small package. Brittany over at Melanin Eclectic and I have been kind of yelling about this series together. She just finished this book and she has warned me that it's gonna hurt, and she is fully prepared for all of my texts that will be sent her way. I'm also thinking about doing some candles inspired by this series, so let me know if that's something you might be interested in. I don't know exactly how I'm going to execute it yet, but we'll see. Also, I love this cover. I love the color schemes for all of the covers. I have the Owlcrate edition of Shadow of the Fox, so it's like the bright red, and then I have this blue, which is also beautiful, and purple is my favorite color. So speaking of Brittany, since we're talking about this series, I'm going to link below. She did a review of the series, and while simultaneously doing a makeup look inspired by all of the books in the series. So Next is another series I started reading last year. I'm one of the last people ever to read this series. I only read the first one though, and it's the Grisha trilogy. That I am just holding up Siege and Storm right now because I don't know where the other two are. Also, I have, what's the last one? Ruin and Rising, but I ordered Siege and Storm and Ruin and Rising. I found them on, was it Half Price Books? It was one of those because I wanted the I wanted all of the original covers because when I bought Shadow and Bone, they hadn't switched the covers yet, so I wanted a complete series. Got this one, but Ruin and Rising is the new cover, so that's annoying. Anywho, I don't have to tell you what this series is about. Oh, maybe because I'm saying series. Siri thinks I'm talking to her. I'm not. Yes, I read the first book. I have no real like investment or thought about it. It is a 2012 book, if I've ever seen one. It's fine. I don't love it, I don't hate it, but I do want to finish it. One, because I want to finish the series before the show comes out. Yes, I'm going to watch the show. Why? Ben Barnes. I've been in love with that man since he was Prince Caspian, and so I've decided to dive in simply for him. I don't care. Also, he's playing the Darkling, so like, yes, thank you. Also, reason number 2 is because what I really want is to read the Six of Crows duology. So I know I don't have to read these books to read those books, but I feel like I want to have an understanding of the world because they're set in the same world. So, and I know you don't have to read these books to read those books, but I feel like I do. Next, actually, this one I actually don't know why I didn't actually write it down. Say actually one more time, please. But I'm gonna throw this in here because I looked at the book and I'm like, duh, Amber. My favorite series from like middle school, Series of Unfortunate Events. I got about halfway through the series. Okay, I'm gonna tell the story. So I got about like 5 books in to the series, and then I lent out my copy of the 4th book, and when I got it back, it was ruined. It had all types of child scribblings all through the book, and I don't know why. That just kind of discouraged me from reading the rest of the book. I was mad. So then the show came out on Netflix, and because I haven't finished the series, I'm like, I don't want to spoil the books for myself. I refuse to watch it. And my mom's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I need to read the books. So we have an agreement. We made an agreement. She's been buying me the books starting from the beginning again because my original copies are in storage again. So I am going to start the series over so we can watch the show, and also because I need to finish the series. These were my favorite books in like middle school. Also, I could read this in like a day. What am I doing? Isn't there like some issue with Lemony Snicket? I don't want to know. Don't tell me right now. Let me finish the series and then you can enlighten me. Okay, next is a series by one of my favorite authors. Stop it, Siri. Am I gonna have to start saying like collection of books? And it's the Something Strange and Deadly series by Susan Dennard. This is her first series. We all know that The Witchlands is like, that's my favorite ongoing series. I love Susan's writing so much, so I'm like, I have to read her first books. And once again, I don't know where the first book is right now. It's somewhere over there. But I also recently found the original covers of A Darkness Strange and Lovely and Strange and Ever After. I think I found these on biblio.com. Once again, the covers have been changed, updated, and because I had the original cover, I'm like, all right, I need the full set. Found these for like a few dollars each, thank the Lord. And they're the library bindings, but I took all the library stuff off. These covers are so pretty. Eventually I probably will get the updated covers also, because like I said, Suze is one of my favorite authors and I love these books. Well, I love the first one. These follow, what's her name, Eleanor. This takes place at like the turn of the century in Philadelphia. It's like a steampunk zombie book set in Philadelphia. I love a book set in my city, of course I do. It was really cool. A lot of the places mentioned, I'm like, I know where that is. I know where that is. I hang out there sometimes. But yeah, love Suze's writing. Love a book set in my city. I don't really read a lot of books involving zombies in any sort of capacity. But these are some good ones. I like the way this was done. The only other, well, I listened to The Girl with All the Gifts. I liked that. I liked the first half of that book. And then like the second half, I think I zoned out a lot. And the only other zombie-esque book I've read was, what is the book called? Oh my god, Dread Nation. Oh my god, I've put that book so far from my mind because I liked the first book a lot, but it's very problematic, and there's Justina Ireland is problematic, and you know, just her reaction, the way she has reacted to critique from Indigenous people about like the Indigenous representation and inaccuracies in the book doesn't sit well with me. So I haven't read the sequel. That's not what we're talking about today. Let's move on. Okay, so next is another series that I am very late to. One of the last people ever to start it. But I've only read the first book, but it's quickly become one of my top series. It's the Ember and the Ashes trilogy by Sabaa Tahir. I recently read an Ember and the Ashes, also in May for the Asian Readathon. Adored this book, fell in love with it so quickly, and I'm so invested. So I plan to read A Torch Against the Night next month. I plan to read this during the Disney Readathon. And oh, actually, speaking of this, I know that this one is not unfinished. I mean not finished, but the last book comes out in a few months, and by the time I get around to finishing the series, it'll probably be completed. So I need to get A Reaper at the Gates, and I still need to pre-order something about a storm. That's not, I don't remember. Storm is something. Y'all, like, I've only read one book in this series, but I know it's going to keep getting better. Like, I have faith. Sabaa's writing is chef's kiss. These characters, I love them so much. Elias. Okay, briefly, this follows both Laya and Elias. Laya is a slave. Her brother has been imprisoned after the rest of her whole family has been killed, and she teams up with the rebellion to save him. And the trade basically is they'll help find her brother if she spies on the commandant of the military academy, who happens to be Elias's mother. They hate each other though. She hates him. He is like the top student of the academy, on track to be a mask, which is like a soldier. He doesn't want that life though. He's planning to run away at the beginning of the book, but he is basically told that if he leaves and runs away, he will turn into the person that he hates and fears the most. So blah 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 blah. Their paths cross and keep crossing, and this story is about to take me on a very wild ride, and thank you. Well, I'll just go right with them. Another series that I am very late to and read one book, and I'm fully invested, fully here for it, ready to be emotionally eviscerated, and it's the Deva Bad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. by S.A. Chakraborty. I just read City of Brass last week and immediately ordered The Kingdom of Copper. I have to order Empire of Gold? Is that what the book's called? Yeah, whatever, the last book, because I'm hooked. I have a set of the Fairy Loot exclusives pre-ordered, like I just said, and also the Fake Rate Hangover Recovery Kit, because I already knew that once I finally got around to reading this book, I would be in love with it, and I'm so glad that I followed my instincts. There's so much happening. This book follows Nari, who has grown up in Cairo. She is this con woman who uses what she calls tricks to basically swindle people, make them believe that she's performing like little magic. And she, at the start of the story, accidentally summons a Jinn warrior, Deva warrior, excuse me, Dara, and she gets swept up and brought to Deva Bad, this magical kingdom, city, kingdom, whatever. And I don't know, I knew I was gonna love this book. It has like all of the elements that I love in a book, but I didn't know that I was gonna be this invested. This also follows Prince Alizade, who is the king's second son. He is preparing to basically be, what's it called, the Cade, is that what it's called? His brother's bodyguard, essentially, or like second in command or whatever. But also he has a soft spot for the Shafit, which are like human Jinn mix, and they are mistreated in Deva Bad. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, we'd be here forever, but I love this. Has all of the elements of that I love in a book. I have some candle notes. That's how you know when I love something. But I desperately need to get around to this book and finish this series. I am doing a separate spoilery vlog for the whole trilogy, but I'm not sure when I'm going to get around to this, because I want to do the, like I said, the Disney readathon next month, and I'm not sure if this fits any of the prompts, even though I don't think I'm going to do the group book. So instead of the group book, I'm probably just going to read this book. Okay, so next, I don't have any of the books with me. Well, I only have the first book. I don't have it with me right now. I think I sent it around to storage, but the series is The Brujas of Brooklyn by Zoraida Cordova. I read Labyrinth Lost sometime in 2019, and I really enjoyed that story. I also really like the concept that each book follows a separate sister. This one's not complete either, I just realized. Did the final book just come out? I think the final book just came out, or is about to come out. I really enjoyed the journey that we went on in the first book. It was a quick, fun read. Oh, okay, Wayward Witch, which is the final one, comes out in September. So it's not technically completed, but once again, by the time I get around to finishing the books, it will be completed. I'm excited to see Bruja Born is the next one, follows Lula, who is, I think, Alex's older sister. So I'm curious to see what we get up to in that book, the magic, because she's like stronger in her magic than her sister was in the first book. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. And I want to finish, I need to finish this series, because I also want to start Incendiary and Zoraida's new series. Next, we have a very underrated series that like no one talks about these books, but I love them. And I've only read the first two, but I've been having a lot of fun with this series. And it's the Jacoby series. I think I have this completed. I think I have all of them. These are the third and fourth book, I believe. Ghostly Echoes and The Dire King. The other two are somewhere. These books are a lot of fun. If you like the Stalking Jack the Ripper books, this has like a similar vibe. It's a lot lighter. It's not as, to me at least, it's not as dark or bloody as the Stalking Jack the Ripper books, but they're quick reads. They're a lot of fun, and I love the mystery aspect. I love Jacoby and the what is her name? Abigail's relationship with him. He's just a quirky little weirdo. In fact, initially, I'll say, part of me liked these books more than the Jack the Ripper books. But we know I couldn't get into the book at first. I had to listen to the audiobook of the first book and then get into the series. But these captured me from the first book, or a lot of fun. I'm curious to see what other shenanigans they get up to. All right, we are almost done. So next is another series. I don't have the book with me, and this one, okay, hold on. This one is the Charlotte Holmes series. So the first book, the one I have, is A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. I didn't really like that book. I read it last January. I was in Europe when I was reading that book. I think I started it when I was in Amsterdam, maybe? I think maybe part of the reason why I couldn't get into it and didn't really like it is because I was really sick on that trip. One, with all the traveling, I probably couldn't focus on it as much as I wanted to, but I was also really sick. So I don't think I could really connect to it the way I wanted to, really focus on it the way I wanted to. I also just really didn't care about the story that much. I didn't care about either of the characters. But like I said, because of all the other elements, I want to give it another try, the same way I gave the Stalking Jack the Ripper a second try and listened to the audiobook and realized, oh, the audiobook makes it easier to get into, and then was able to enjoy the rest of the series. Book 2 is still the best book in the whole series. You can fight me about that. So I say series I need to finish, but I at least want to give it a second chance. I at least want to try with this book, because I've heard a lot of people love the book. Doesn't mean I'm gonna love the book. Not everything's for everybody, but I'm just curious. Another book, the first one that I didn't particularly love, but I have the second book now, and I want to at least finish it because it's duology, so I should at least be able to finish that, right? It's the Crown's Game books by Evelyn Skye. This is the sequel to Crown's Fate. I didn't hate the first book. It just wasn't what I wanted it to be. It really wasn't what I wanted it to be. It didn't go where I thought it should have gone. It didn't meet the potential that I wanted it to meet, but I have the second book. So I at least want to, because the way the first book ended was enough that made me intrigued to see where the story would go. So like I said, I'm intrigued to see where the story would go. This book follows Nikolai and Vika, who both think, well, I think Vika believes she is the last enchanter, only enchanter in this fantastical imperial Russian world. And long story short, she and Nikolai end up in this competition, the Crown's Game, to use their magic to fight to become the Tsar's enchanter. So this is the follow-up. This, I think, there's gonna be a lot more drama with Pasha, who is the crown prince and Nikolai's best friend, or he was. Yes. And the last one on the main list, because I have some honorable mentions also, is the Fifth Wave series trilogy. Is it a trilogy? Yeah. This is the Last Star, which, as the title implies, is the last book in the trilogy. I really liked the first one. The Fifth Wave was really intriguing to me, and I thought that like the series was going to get progressively better. The Infinite Sea took turns that I did not love, but I need closure. I need to see where this ends. Also, I know there's some something with Frick Yancey. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember there was he and his like wife and kid were like arguing with random people on the internet, like where they had searched Rick Yancey's name and were just, I don't remember what caused that, but that was a mess. Since I already have the book before all that happened, I want to know how it all ends and whether or not I should keep the books. If anything, I would probably keep the first one because I did like that one, even though I don't know if I'd read it again. So that's the main list. So now we have a handful of honorable mentions, and by honorable mentions it's because I started them ages ago. So the first one is the Dorothy Must Die books by Danielle Page, is that the author? Which is like not necessarily a retelling, but sort of like a retelling follow-up of The Wizard of Oz. It's like what happens when Dorothy comes, not Dorothy, after The Wizard of Oz. There's this new main character, I don't remember her name, gets swept to Oz. Dorothy is like this tyrant, and it's like the rebellion to take Dorothy down. And I really loved the first book, and I think I have most of the rest of the series because I think I ordered another copy of the first book because that one's deep in storage, and because I knew I wanted to restart the story. I love a retelling or anything closely aligned to a retelling. I wanted more of that rebellion. Next one, another retelling. I think I read these two books at the same time, and that's Splintered, that series by A.G. Howard, which is a Alice in Wonderland retelling, sort of, but like a darker twist, like not twisted, but like a darker version. Really loved the first book, really need to complete it. Next is the Miss Peregrine's books. I keep forgetting that this series exists, if I'm being honest. Sort of. I read the first one, really enjoyed it, really curious where the stories were going to go, and then I pushed, like other books kept coming out, so it kept going further down on my TBR. But I do intend to reread the first one, finish the series. I think I saw part of the movie one time and I'm like, what is this? What's going on? No. Oh, next is, I think it's also called the Fallen series, but it's not the one by Lauren Kate. It's, I don't remember who the author is, but also about fallen angels. I think, mild spoiler, the main character finds out he's like Lucifer's son or something like that, and I was like, okay, now what? And like I think they're each in like bind-ups, like it's the first two books and then like something like that. I don't remember, but I had a phase where all I was reading were books about fallen angels. So now that's a trope, not a trope, I guess trope genre that needs to come back. Vampires are making their comeback, and so now I'm ready for the Fallen Angel revival. Next is the Iron Fae books by Julie Kagawa. I read this, the first book. Is it the Iron King? Is that the first book? So long ago. I remember I checked it out from the library, just caught my eye, and then like that was it. So like how many years later I'm obsessed with Julie's other books, and I'm like, that reminds me, I need to get around to I need to reread that series because I love Julie Kagawa's writing. And last but not least, this one's mainly on this list because I have read, I just need to know. And it's like, I think it's the Recreated, is that what it's called? Whatever the Devil by Colleen Houck, who is also the author of the Tiger's Curse series. I used to love the Tiger's Curse series. I've reread it a couple times, but like, I don't know, the last time I read it, it just didn't sit right. It's very appropriation central, very white saviory, and then I read Recreated, which is the same thing. It's literally the same structure of the Tiger's Curse, but instead of like India and like ancient India, it's ancient Egypt. And while I love me some ancient Egyptian storying, I mean, the book didn't sit right. The first one didn't sit right with me simply because it was the Tiger's Curse, but with birds instead of tigers and Egypt instead of India. I just need to know. I just need to know if it ever deviates and becomes its own thing. I'm also, you know how I'm doing that Twilight reread? I might, that's on the list of books, the Tiger's Curse, the ones I might go through next to reread. So anywho, that's my list of series that I need to finish. I'm sure there are other ones that I have started and need to get to wrap that up, but these are the main ones. These are what I have around me at the time right now. So let me know, one, what series you need to finish, even if it's just for closure. I was going to say 2, but I don't have a 2. Just let me know that. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you like me, feel free to subscribe. All my places are down below, as well as the link to my fundraiser candle, which is raising money to be donated to the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, because Black lives still matter. I mean, there's also the link to my shop anyway, in case you just want some candles. You can follow me and I'll follow you back, and I'll see you very soon.